Morning, Rob here from the Art of Wax. It's early morning on Canada Day, but I got a lot of records to show you from last month, so I thought we'd get an early start. Let's take a look. Starting with my first ever Tone Poet purchase. This is Art Blakey, the Jazz Messengers, the Witch Doctor. As you know, if you've been watching the videos, I've been slowly getting into jazz through Art Blakey, and that's my first Tone Poet series release. And it definitely was worth the extra few bucks to pick that one up. Up next we have a compilation album from Alligator Records. They were one of my favorite record labels growing up. I'm a big fan of Hound Dog Taylor, who's obviously a member of Alligator Records. So when I saw this 50th anniversary release, I thought this would be a great record to be able to put on and work my way through their entire catalog. So 50 years of genuine house rockin' music. Then we have the newest release from Nick Cave and Warren Ellis. We have Carnage. This one was released digitally a few months back, so you can definitely check it out if you haven't yet. And then the vinyl just dropped last month. It's another beautiful, beautiful haunting album from Nick and Warren, and it picks up right where Ghosteen left off, in my opinion. One of my favorite bands, The Raining Sound, have returned with a little more time with The Raining Sound. This one was released last month. It's supposed to be a yellow and green swirl, but it's pretty much just yellow. That's cool. The music's awesome. Anything that Greg Cartwright puts his hands on, I will definitely pick up and listen to. And again, on Merch Records, where they belong. Up next, we're going to take a look at some of the Record Store Day releases that I picked up. I jumped in and only grabbed 4. My Record Store Day philosophy is I don't go there to collect and load up on stuff. I go there just to buy the albums that I normally would have bought if it was released from an artist. So it's a small batch for me. Starting with this 10-inch, I'll have a bucket of brains from the Flamin' Groovies. I'm a big Groovies fan, so I always snap up anything that comes out by then. So these are, I believe, some live recordings. So interesting little piece. Groovies onto the Flaming Lips. We have the Soft Bulletin Companion. As a huge Flaming Lips fan, I was really excited to see this one hit vinyl for the first time. It's got a lot of playtime so far. It came out on a nice solid silver vinyl, if I can get it to come out there. I'm lucky enough that mine's in great shape. I do know there was some issues that some guys reported with some warped albums and some bad sounds, but mine sounds great, and it's got a very minor warp, but nothing to complain about in my books, anyways. Then we have The Sword, Age of Winters, an album that's been on my bucket list for a long time now. So when I saw it jump up and become available on Record Store Day, I thought, fuck, that's what I'll definitely need. It's got a beautifully embossed cover with some silver inlay there, and it's available on a purple frost, I think is the color they called it. I don't know if you can see much here, but all you need to know is it sounds spectacular, and this is one of those albums that if you're into Doom, this is definitely something you should check out and add to your collection. The masters that are Opeth. I know Opeth is one of those bands that you either love them or you hate them. I am squarely on the love them side of things. So when this was re-released for Record Store Day, I couldn't pass it up. Beautiful teal blue album. And yeah, it sounds great. This is Morning Rise. It is harder than the more recent releases by Opeth, but I'm definitely fully down with this album. That's it. That's all I got for Record Store Day, so we're going to move on to some of the pre-orders that I ordered that just started to show up this month. There's a pair of them, so not purchased this month, but just starting to show up into my hands. The first being one of my favorite albums or EPs of the year so far. This is Wild Fuzz Trip, Distant Planets. This album is fucking awesome. When I first heard it on the Doom charts a few months back, I knew that it was something that I would definitely be picking up when it was available. So I bought it right through Majestic Mountain Records, placed my order. Good company to deal with, good tracking, showed up quick, great communication. So if you're interested in some Doom and some Fuzz, check out Wild Fuzz Trip, Distant Planets. Last pre-order for this month was King Buffalo and the Burden of Restlessness. King Buffalo is one of my favorite bands, so when they announced that they would be releasing 3 albums this year, I was super excited about it. This is the first of those 3. I was lucky enough to get in on and score one of the deluxe copies. It looks fantastic and sounds great as well. So that's it. If you haven't listened to King Buffalo, you should definitely check them out. They have a very unique sound. Great band from upstate New York. Alright, on to just some random purchases that I picked up last month, starting with Mos Def, Black on Both Sides, one of those albums that I've been kind of, it's in the bucket list and I've passed on it a whole bunch of times. It's always usually fairly expensive, and I can always find something that I needed in that same price range or a bit cheaper that I ended up picking up over it. On my last trip to something else, this copy was still kicking around, and the shop owner, Matt, and I had a conversation about the album, and he was kind of like, you know, think it's out of press again, and pulled it up on Discogs, and the one that he had sitting on his shelf was already selling for over double what he was retailing it for in the store. So I thought, you know what, that's good timing, let's pick it up. So Mos Def, Black on Both Sides. From the same shop, I picked up Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. This was released back in March and never arrived in the shop. Matt knew that I was interested in it and that I'd asked him about it when it was first dropping. So he gave me a call saying, look, I got 1 copy. Are you interested in it? Again, one of those albums that, because it was released in limited quantities back in March, it's already tripled in value, even though I'm still paying sticker price of about $29 on something like this. That's Canadian for those listening. Up next is something that I've never seen in the wild before and was super excited to come across. This is Pretty's For You by Alice Cooper. This is Alice Cooper Band's first album. It was produced by Frank Zappa, or an absent Frank Zappa, since as stories go, he just left and let the band do what they wanted to do. The band claims that a lot of the music on this album was actually just first takes or fucking around and not actually how they planned it to sound. Personally, I love this album, and super excited to have finally found a copy in the wild and to add it to the collection. 2 albums I picked up this month, actually 3. This is very rare for me. Usually I'm kind of a one and done when it comes to Amazon, but as you know, I use Amazon only for extreme price drops, so albums that are usually higher in value than when they drop down. So these 3 I picked up this month from Amazon. We have Otis Blue, the Otis Redding Sings Soul album. This one dropped down to $12 on Amazon, and I could not pass it up. I can't find a used copy for that price. Same thing with Ray LaMontagne, Till the Sun Turns Black. Dropped to $16 this month on Amazon, so I picked that up. And then one I'd had on my list for a while. It's not one of my favorite Dave Matthews Band albums, but it's still something that, as a fan, I believe I should keep in my collection. It's Big Whiskey and the Gru Rex King. Normally about a $40 album. It dropped down to $18, so I snapped it up. On the jazz side of things, also from Zaps Records here in town, I picked up Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers' Just Coolin'. This album is a fun listen. It's kind of wild. It's kind of out there. It's Art Blakey. What do you do? It popped up on one of Zaps Records' flips, so I couldn't pass it up. Up next, we're going to get into a bunch of albums that I bought, all from Something Else Records here in town, based on the fact that someone came in and sold off a pretty impressive collection that Matt, the owner, pieced out and continued to sell over the course of the month. He didn't drop it all at once. He slowly plugged away at it. I'm thankful he didn't drop it all at once, or I would have been broke. All these albums came from the same collection, and all were in great shape and well priced. We'll start off with the MC5, Kick Out the Fucking Jams. Again, something that was on my list for a long time. I just never ended up picking up, so I snapped this up when I saw it on this one. David Bowie, we got some Ziggy Stardust. Again, yeah, it's a Best Buy series, but one of the other local collectors that I always run into down there recommended that it was at least worth giving it a shot. He'd heard some good things about the Best Buy series, and for the price I couldn't complain, and it does sound great for that price point for sure. We have some Ramones, The End of the Century. As my friend Bob says, you just never pass up a good Ramones album if you don't have it, so I didn't. The first Velvet Underground album to hit my collection is their second album. We got White Light, White Heat. I've never seen this cover before. I believe it's a 1971 reissue cover. This is an 84 reissue, but great album. My personal favorite Velvet Underground album. Branching out a little bit, as I said, my jazz kind of sticks to Art Blakey for the most part, but when a Love Supreme drops in great shape and a great price point, you can't pass up some John Coltrane. So this is my first non-Art Blakey album in my collection. Now we're going to get through a bunch of Tom Waits. The collector, whoever sold off their collection, I thank you. You helped me almost complete my entire Tom Waits catalog. I'm just missing a pair of albums now that I will be on the hunt for. But because of you, I now own Blood Money, Real Gone, Closing Time, Mule Variations, all three of the Ballers, Brawlers, and Bastards set, which is something I've never seen used all three at one time in a store. So it was really nice to be able to say, "Fuck it, I'll take all three," and close out that collection. On top of that, this gentleman also traded in some Captain Beefheart, two that I was missing. We have Lick My Decals Off Baby, Lick My Decals Off Baby, and Mirror Man. Both fucking fun Beefheart albums to add into the mix. Also scored some Leonard Cohen from that same collection, Old Ideas. Big fan of late Leonard Cohen, and this album is one I didn't hear when it came out, but I truly enjoy. Another first from my collection, my first Radiohead album, In Rainbows. Again, one of those bands that I've always been a huge fan of, but there's always something else more important that pops up when I'm shopping that I grab. But when In Rainbows pops up at a $19 price point, Canadian, you can't help but snap that up. And it got a couple solid weekends of play so far this summer already. Last but not least, we have a little bit of Muddy Waters for you. This is Muddy Waters sings Big Bill. I have never seen this album. I had never heard this album, but as a Muddy fan, I had to snap it up when I saw it drop. This is an Italian pressing. It sounds great, and it's something that one of those things I didn't know I needed or wanted, but surely glad that I came across it. All right, there you have it. That is my spin through albums I picked up or arrived in the month of June 2021. Thanks again for watching. See you next month.